discuter sur le trottoir et on est parti pour une autre vie. Mais elle a laissé son fantôme de sirène.
Ok, adesso mi sentite davvero. Benvenuti, allora il secondo benvenuto alla seconda edizione di Rethink, Service Design Stories, il nostro festival all'interno del Salone che ha sempre più successo. L'anno scorso il tema era Beyond User con il punto interrogativo, quest'anno è What Services Are Good For, senza punto interrogativo, quindi cominceremo a dare anche delle risposte a che cosa servono i servizi e vi assicuro che servono. Le storie che Stefano Maffei e il suo team hanno raccolto sono davvero molto interessanti. Prima di iniziare un brevissimo ringraziamento al POLI.design, Politecnico di Milano e alla Service Innovation Academy che in collaborazione con il Corriere della Sera hanno reso possibile questo evento insieme a PwC che è founding partner, Digital Entity, H-Farm, Logotel, Brera Design District, Studiolabo, Casa, Corriere, Copernico, ovviamente Regione Lombardia, Camera di Commercio Milano, Bonza e Brianza e Lodi e last but not least il Dipartimento di Design del Politecnico di Milano. Prima di passare agli ospiti abbiamo un breve saluto di Stefano, prego.
Allora, vediamo, non funziona niente ma posso usare la voce, mi sentite?
Questo funziona.
Fantastico, non funziona neanche questo. Scusate, è il, come dire, no, è acceso. Pronto? Non nessuno. Questo piccolo momento di disorganizzazione credo che ci aiuti, come dire, a fare l'in bocca al lupo al festival. Grazie a tutti per essere qui, grazie a Guido per avermi introdotto. È il secondo anno che ci cimentiamo in questa sfida che è portare il service design all'interno della Milano Design Week. Credo che sia un processo difficile, ma dal fatto che siete tutti qui alle 9:30 e avete fatto la coda mi viene a dire che abbiamo raggiunto il nostro scopo. Ne funziona uno? Oh, fantastico. Quindi vi dicevo, un ringraziamento per essere qui. Il service design si sta conquistando una platea sempre più importante all'interno della Milano Design Week. Crediamo che parlare di trasformazione sia uno dei temi d'attualità, ma del futuro anche. Le sfide che questa edizione ci porta, cioè il processo di servizio all'interno della società, dell'economia, della tecnologia, credo che siano importanti e che saranno discusse oggi in maniera ampia e ricca. L'augurio che faccio a tutti quanti è di ritrovarci, come dire, nell'appuntamento di ottobre che seguirà questo appuntamento della Design Week e anche gli anni prossimi di nuovo qui a dibattere con tutti voi. Grazie Guido, grazie a tutti.
Grazie Stefano. È un'esplosione, avete capito, del design. Io ho intervistato, ho parlato con diversi dei nostri speaker nei giorni passati. Quello che abitualmente intendiamo come design è forse troppo ristretto, perché oggi sentirete parlare di migrazioni, di servizi al cittadino, di politiche, di temi molto grandi che forse abitualmente non associamo col design, ma che devono esserlo, hanno bisogno di esserlo per fare funzionare meglio le nostre società. E cominciamo da un tema che è veramente all'ordine del giorno, sta dominando la scena mediatica, la scena politica, è un tema grandissimo anche per queste elezioni europee che ci aspettano tra qualche mese, ed è il tema delle migrazioni. Le nostre Morning Stories è proprio dedicata all'era delle grandi migrazioni. Vorrei chiamare qui sul palco con me Andrea Comollo, che è direttore programma e campagne di ActionAid. Benvenuto Andrea. Prego, siediti intanto. Ad accompagnare Andrea abbiamo due ospiti di eccezione molto particolari. Una è Mariana Salgado, che è Design e Research Lead alla Finnish Immigration Service. Benvenuta Mariana. Mariana è un'immigrata lei stessa, perché è argentina, arrivata in Finlandia e adesso si occupa come designer di migliorare i servizi dell'immigrazione e gestire qualcosa che a noi in Italia può sembrare piccolo. 32.000, 35.000 immigrati possono sembrare piccolissima cosa per noi, però pensate alla Finlandia, che è un paese di 6 milioni, di 5 milioni di abitanti, quindi se fate il rapporto pro capite diventa una sfida abbastanza importante. Infine Matteo Bartolomeo, che è partner e co-founder di Avanzi e CEO di Make a Cube, oltre che presidente di Basi Milano. Benvenuto. Andrea, a te.
So, good morning all. I'm Andrea Comollo and I work as a Program and Campaigns Director in ActionAid. ActionAid is an international NGO active on human rights and social justice in Italy and more than 40 countries across the world. I've been working on global inequality issues for more than 15 years. And that's why I'm very pleased to introduce this first session on one of the biggest and more complex issue of the decades, migration. Or we should say migrations as plural, and migrants, including the people, the human beings. As despite all negative and I can say childish narrations we are exposed in Italy and Europe, migration is not an easy and simplistic task. So, thank you, Mariana and Matteo. Mariana will Direttore Inland. She will start with a presentation with the work done within the Finnish Immigration Service to develop and co-design services to support immigrants and their communities. And then Matteo will focus on the concrete opportunities of intervention at urban level to deal with immigration phenomenon with a user-based approach. So we will try to have a look at migration with different eyes. So give a welcome to Mariana Salgado.
Thank you. So maybe I can have my presentation behind me. That it could be super nice. But if I don't have the presentation, yes, there I am. So I'm going to talk about design for migration. And first of all, I'm going to tell you where I'm working. I work for the Finnish Immigration Service, which means that we are the ones in charge of giving, thank you. I don't know how to use it, but I will find out. We are the ones that we gave a residence permit or refugee status to migrants. So this is our role. And because of the latest migration waves, everybody thinks that mostly what we do is to give asylum seekers refugee status, but actually most of our work goes in giving residence permit to a lot of different kind of immigrants. So we are kind of the doors in Finland who gives these permissions. Let's see. Where should I point? There? Yes. Yes. So the first question that everybody asks is, how come that the Finnish Immigration Service have a service design team? This is what we are, or we can put it Design Innovation Lab, or wherever you want to call it. But they wanted to have a place for experiment. Most of the development work that was done in our agency was about like improving the digital services, the digital services not for our clients, but the internal digital platforms. And we wanted to go beyond that, bring bold ideas, have more resources to innovate, and also to tackle this idea of the moment in life. In the Finnish government, the moment in life means, like, for example, when you are having a baby or when you are migrating. So there is like different services that relate to that moment. So you don't only need a residence permit, but you need a job, you need a social health, you need different type of services. So the idea was how we could work more cross-agency in the government. So this is my team. And something that is interesting that it was mentioned earlier is that 2 of us are foreigners, and we are actually the only foreigners full-time working for the Finnish government. So that was like a brave move from the Immigration Service to there to have new ways of working that we also bring there because of our cultural backgrounds. So we are part of the Digital Service Unit. That is how our organization is organized. And we have this team of designers. We have certain freedom. We have good facilities. We can do a lot of things. And when we started, we have only one unit that wanted to collaborate with us, the one of digital service. But our big challenge was to show to the whole organization how service design can support other type of efforts that are not only the digital ones. So for us, it was a lot of work about trying to spread service design in the organization and promote a certain cultural change there through design. So our main challenge was exactly that, to identify the key areas in which design can make an impact. And we set to ourselves these 3 ones. So one is to bring human-centered design approach to projects. The other was to start projects with new organization, meaning the other agencies in the government. And the third was to bring organizational change through experimental culture. So I will go one by one and tell you some cases that aligned with these strategic goals. So how did we bring a human-centered approach to projects? The first case is a chatbot that we developed. You can go to our page and is at the moment online. So our clients ask a lot of questions. They call us, and we were at that moment only answering the 20% of the calls. So our vision was that we were going to have like a self-served service in which 90% of the calls were going to be answered by the chatbot. And well, here you have Camu is the name of the chatbot, which is not female, not male, is like a neutral name. We can talk about that if you are interested. And we have developed the personality of Camu in order to have trust. The most important is that our clients, they don't call us and say, hey, by the way, Camu said that. Is it really true? Because then we were going to have like the double of people calling us instead of having less people calling us for information. So what we did is a lot of work with the persons in the call center. We did a lot of work with people. We have been doing interviews and testing many different personalities. And we came up with this, which is like the summary of the personality of the chatbot. So the chatbot should, Camu should reply more as a best friend, that an executive director should be a little bit close, friendly. And this has been very important for the team developing the content of the chatbot. So that was the first case, and in that case, I told you how we bring this user-centered design or human-centered design. And it was through developing that personality together with migrants, together with our call service experts. So the other strategic goal is to kickstart projects with other organizations, right? So why we want to do that? Well, for example, if an investor wants to come to Finland, he doesn't know if we are the ones only giving residence permit, and they ask questions like, hey, what should I do with my taxes? So what we decided to do is like this a network of chatbots. So when you are asking about the taxes to Camu, and we say, hey, by the way, we don't know, we transfer you to another chatbot. This is completely innovative because there is not a lot of this type of development in the government, and there is not a lot, normally there is not a lot of this type of networks. So this chatbot network, the idea is to think mostly in what's the use case, what people need, and not so much in okay, now you are in my website, so I won't let you go out of that. So, so here what we did is like a collaboration with 3 different governmental organizations, the tax office, the patent and register center, and our. So you could switch from one to the other, in different type of scenarios. So you could ask, hey, how do I register my office in Finland to one, and hey, how do I get the permit to the other? So these 2, we have done a lot of user testing, a lot of personas. We have built the personality of the 3 of these chatbots, and we have replicated what we have started in Migri, like in our organization, to the 2 other ones. The third one is to bring organizational change through experimental culture. What does that mean? So we wanted to do several small experiments in the government. Again, this is a collaboration with the employment office. And we realized there is a lot of rumors around foreigners. So, and these rumors sometimes, well, they have a negative connotation because people might trust more what a friend says than what like the authorities said about something. So we have to find new and creative ways of giving the right information. So we joined together forces with the employment office, and the employment office say, yes, but we don't want to do any SOME campaign, so not social media campaign. And our office said, okay, yes, but we don't want to develop a new digital platform because who is going to update that? So we were like, what do we do? So our resolution was, I don't know if you know these calendars, like the chocolate calendars for Christmas. So in each kind of little window, you get a chocolate, and the kids, they open each window and they get a chocolate every day. Well, so what we did is like a Christmas calendar. We have developed that in 6 weeks, and we got more than 1,200 visits, which in Finland is a lot. So this is our calendar. And you could open, like the red ones are our windows, and the green ones are from the employment office, and then you get 1 question and 1 answer. So every day you get 1 question and 1 answer till Christmas. So that was a way to answer to certain, at the end we didn't call it rumors because it was like a negative connotation, but we have questions and answers. So we are arriving to the end. So I tell you what are our 3 strategies, and I told you where is our design space. So what we have been trying to do is like to work in here, right? We are in the public sector in Finland. We are one agency inside the Interior Ministry, and we are a small team. So what I think is that in the future, we should try to expand this design space. Yes, we could do a lot of co-design work from the government. Yes, our colleagues are now doing much more user-centeredness testing and co-creating together with immigrants. So this is like a common practice now in our organization after that 1.5 years that we have been there. So that's important data. But still, we are very much focused in this cross-governmental collaboration, and we are not expanding. And I think in the future we should be expanding to work together with the private sector and with the third sector. And designers in these networks, at the moment we are part of these networks, but sometimes we don't have a key role, or we don't they are not part of our mandate to be part of this network. However, like co-design and co-designers in general, we have the means, in my opinion, we have the means, we have the mindset, we have the tools to strategically plan the work of these networks, the operational part and the strategy of these networks. And in the future, I also think that we have in our hands the possibility to also make them sustainable. Not that they are not only this type of small laboratory type of short experiment projects, but that we are going to have to sustain this work over the years. And this could be more and more the work of designers. That, I think with that, I am finishing. Thank you. Yes, and I did it on time.
So thank you, Mariana. And Matteo, Bartolomeo. So looking at the presentation Mariana gave us and looking at the actual situation in Italy, do you think feasible in our country a project like that one? Or which are the key elements we need to develop to run a project like that one?
Yes, thanks for the invitation and thanks for your presentation. I think the situation in Italy is quite different from many perspectives. The first one is that Italy is a sort of platform in the Mediterranean region and on the sea, and such a platform is frequently used by migrants to move from south to north. And so we have a relatively small number of people that tend to stay or are willing to stay in Italy. They tend to go to Germany, or they would like to go to Germany, to Austria, to France, and then Finland and Scandinavia and so on. So I think in Italy we're facing the problem in trying to find a good way to assist migrants for a limited amount of time, for a limited period of time, knowing that in many cases they would like to move away. Most of the intervention in Italy has been focused on sheltering and basic needs and the support to basic needs rather than in-depth integration with the cultural environment and also with the economic environment. So this I think in terms of service design poses a number of questions, and we did try to work together with various partners working in providing assistance to migrants, and to be honest, we didn't find a solution. It's from a design perspective is quite a challenge, because changes completely from the perspective in Finland or in Scandinavia or even in France and in Germany, completely the perspective on who is the target, who are the beneficiaries, how do you involve them, for how long time, and so on. So we did try to work on these aspects, and as an incubator, so I'm taking now the hat of the incubator that normally assists people in developing their own business, focusing on social and cultural and environmental benefits. So we as an incubator, we assist normally entrepreneurs or people willing to start up a business in the very early stage, so in what is called the Death Valley. And we tried from a design perspective to try to assist, to provide assistance also to migrants in this, using incubation programs as a way to support entrepreneurship of migrants, and considering also entrepreneurship as a sort of social lift in a country which tends to avoid the integration of migrants. Taking the perspective of incubation and putting entrepreneurship as a social device to integrate in the society, integrate yourself and your team and your mates in the society. And honestly, we failed in that. Okay, so I think since we are in a design contest, and we have to also express honestly how it did work, but also especially how it did not work. So our program, which we had two programs. One was supported by JP Morgan Foundation, the other one by the European Commission. They were designed in a way that we were opening up call for ideas for migrants willing to start up a business and providing support to them in the form of providing hard skill, soft skills, and providing also the basic devices to start up a business. And actually, as part of these two projects, the lessons learned is that we failed, and now we moved to another system of incubation. And in particular, we failed because, and I go back to the initial word I made, because many people that come to Italy, they would like to escape from Italy. So it was very difficult to find people with an idea willing to establish a business and to establish a business in Italy. It was very, very hard, and we had a problem of adverse selection. So we were capturing people, migrants, individuals or teams that were already quite skilled, and failing in addressing those that were in a condition of very high needs of support. So that was one problem, and the second problem was that we were providing assistance in a workshop type format, while we discovered that it was after the first cycle, so during the second cycle, that it would have been much more important to provide one-to-one assistance, combining psychological assistance with soft skill and with hard skills and with the means to start up a business. So the problem of target, the problem of instruments, and also the third element that made us considering from the foundation our service to support migrants in an entrepreneurship path was to consider back the idea of launching a call for ideas, and to completely reverse the approach in launching, for example, a call for people, so using specific and pre-designed formats and to involve people in joining that idea. And this is turning to be, in a country like Italy, I'm not saying this is going to work in a country like Finland or a country like France or Germany. This is a quite simplified way to engage people. They have a very concrete, very easy and plug-in solution to join in, rather than design or allowing them to design an idea that may don't have, or they have the idea, the only idea they have is to go away.
Thank you. In both of your experiences, which are the role of the migrants, of the people directly? I mean, they are supposed to be at the center of the co-design of the process, but which is their actual role? Or
is this working? Yes. For my group, for example, we do a lot of testing, of course, when we are planning and designing, but something that we do and we are very proud of is that we go to work with migrants with an open agenda. So we don't know what we are going to start doing. So we go there, and we ask how was the experience of dealing with migration office. So we don't have, okay, I'm going to test the chatbot now. So we have a complete open agenda, and that I think it's super important, because this type of research work gave us very good direction of what are the future and where should be prioritizing our actions. So it was, yeah, it's a lot of this work and the first steps, but it's also a lot on the work with migrants during the whole design process. So this is why we call it co-design, because we go around in many iterations with migrants. But also we work a lot with our colleagues. So many services, they have to be tested for our own staff.
And on your perspective, I mean, you say you failed in designing a service that actually people do not need. So how can you integrate migrants' opinion or migrants' co-design processes?
Yeah, I think we learned a lot from this perspective, and I share what you just said in terms of keeping as much open as possible the process. I think also in the rhetoric of migrants, we actually make very frequently mistakes just calling them migrants. Okay, we are all migrants. So what we are talking about? Who are they? Who are we? Okay, so we tend to consider migrants as a cluster, quite homogeneous of people, and maybe the differentiation that we are able to make is, to consider differently from, for example, Syrians from the others, from the Middle East, for example. And there was this rhetoric of considering Syrians as the most skilled or the skilled migrants, which were very warmly welcome, for example, in Germany and in Austria, while the others, the unskilled people, they were not, or they are not, considered as persons, but they're just figures. Okay, so and it's not a criticism. Okay, with your approach, obviously. So I think we have to, to open up the terminology, to open up this very large cluster, which includes all of us, and to consider the individuals and the stories, the personal stories of each of the persons that we met is very different from the others. So this requires a lot of customization, a lot of customization and core design.
I agree, and I don't agree with that. Let's disagree a bit, because then the panel, it gets a little bit more interesting. And I think that, yes, it could be good to personalize more, but I also think that there is certain types of immigrants, and at least for a governmental organization, for us, it's very important that we are serving them all, that we are not always designing for the ones that are the rich and the beautiful. So we are not always designing for the ones that are going to be integrated because they are going to set up their own startup, but we are also designing for the illiterate ones, for the vulnerable communities, for the ones that had bad experience, and they are a group, and by constitutions we should serve them. So for us, it's something that we have all the time in mind when we are setting our projects and our priorities. It's like, are we also doing work for them? And we are constantly checking that part of our resources and our efforts are to work with these more vulnerable immigrants. And I think as working for the government is part of making our services accessible, right? If I work for a company, it might not be a very good deal to invest in illiterate immigrants, but working for the government forced us for this accessibility, and I'm very pleased that it is like that, because I think as designer it brings a new dimension into my work that it's a pleasure to embrace.
That's a very good point. And starting from this, how do you think you can expand the design space to other activities or to other actors, like NGOs or civic actors or private sectors?
Definitely. I think, for example, in ActionAid, we were talking before this panel, and I think it's very important to invite designers to do more work in NGOs, but not only as leading campaigns, but as strategic designers. So really doing service design work in a strategic level, not only as the ones doing branding, identity campaigns, but really in charge of doing the co-design work together with the people in terms of deciding what these NGOs need to be doing, like defining the programs, deciding.
I totally agree. That's one thing that we are trying to do. One of the problems, for example, from our perspective we are facing is that in Italy, when you want to build a program with different actors like service designers, institutions, private sector, you have to put together a lot of different actors. So our work is becoming a lot of like connecting dots. So looking at Italian perspective, do you think that we are ready for drive a cultural mind shift where service design can be included in local administration or can be boosted in other areas that are different from the service designer itself?
Yeah, I think it's very important. I tend to consider the public administration not because the persons are unskilled or unwilling to do so, but as a bureaucratic body of the state, the public administration, even at the local level, quite unable to manage design challenges. Because the procedures in terms of call for proposals, call for tenders are so strictly defined in terms of rules that it's very hard to do what seems very simple, which is pre-competitive procurement, for example. But it's very hard to happen, at least in the Italian context. So I think that public administration should or could open up a process for service design innovation by setting objectives rather than means, and allowing competition on that. And the European Commission does it, for example, in the call for proposals quite often. Setting the scene for strategic objectives and leaving the participants to find a solution to meet these objectives. And this can be done, I think, also in the Italian context, and this would open a lot of innovation. We are witnessing also a bit of innovation also in the financial sector, and I'm talking about impact finance, where there are some investors interested in paying out for the outcomes rather than the output of activities. And this is also completely changing the framework of discussion and the innovation framework for new designs for social benefits.
Yes, something I wanted to add is that, yes, I agree that procurement processes have to be framed different in order that we have more service design in the government, but I also think that full-time in-house service designing in the organizations are key for having the right procurements for service designers, and that we need the in-house designers in the organizations, because it's very different what the consultants do and how they perceive and how they can enter into our organizations that to work from inside the government, from inside the institution. So the scope of the work is completely different.
Okay, so we are running out of time. Yes. So thank you very much to Matteo and to Mariana to show us how a different way to work can really generate a powerful impact in our society and people. So thank you very much. Thank you.